Geens. Hello, haven't seen you yet. Hi. Productivity strategist, talking about science practice and the growth mindset principles into a simple daily journal, which is available to buy at the back. Round of applause for Francesca. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm at the back with the very yellow journals. My name is Francesca Geens. I'm here as a mum and as a productivity consultant, which is my main business. And I created the HappySelf Journal that we launched just 2.5 weeks ago. And I also started a podcast called the Curious Parent Podcast. And I think there's really 3 reasons why I set about doing both those things. And I think it's when all of my interests in my kind of 3 worlds as a parent, as myself, and in my productivity business collided. One, there was the constant press that we've already heard in the talks just telling us that our children are growing up stressed. But nobody was really telling us kind of what we could do to prevent this. Everybody was blaming social media and exams and blaming or pointing out that there's very little resource to deal with stressed out kids, but nobody was really saying, well, what can we do to prevent this from happening? And as a mum of 2 young kids, I was very interested in trying to get there early, I suppose. The second thing was that in my productivity consultancy, I've seen a real trend for clients going back to pen and paper. Sure, apps are good, and I've run a technology consultancy for 8 years, so I'm all for technology, but there was a real return for kind of less is more, pen and paper. Digital distraction is huge, and I spend a lot of time working with clients on digital distraction, emails, notification, information overwhelm. None of this is going away, but people are realizing that they need to be better at tackling it. And so there was, I suppose, also being in the business world, I see a lot of business people or people working in the corporate sector investing a huge amount in their mindset, well-being, coaching, executive programs. There's a lot of money being spent for people wanting to perform better. Productivity ties in with your own well-being, and so all of these things are coming together, and I can see also a real trend in return to journaling. People want better morning routines, they want routines and rituals. It's all about getting up early and being your best self. Oh, this was very interesting, and at the same time I could see in the press there's a lot of interesting research going on, kind of science-based research, all the science of happiness, and it seemed to me that there were some really simple actions that had been proven to help us feel better. It was interesting that scientists have shown that actually 40% of our happiness is within our own control. 50% is down to genetics, fine, so we can't affect that. 10% supposedly is down to our kind of daily life circumstance, but there's 40% up for grabs, which is a nice big number to play with. And so I thought, well, what is this all about? So I set about to find out a bit more. So I set about starting a podcast, and that was all about thinking slightly wider about, okay, so kids are stressed out, that's, the world's not going to get any simpler. And there's also a statistic floating around saying that 60% of the jobs that primary age children are going into don't even exist yet. And that's just reflecting this rapidly changing work environment. I mean, I myself started off in a kind of normal corporate job and kind of went into self-employment as the world of work is changing, and technology has pushed that a lot that way. But there's a lot of kids growing up and going into jobs that don't exist. So as a parent, that makes me question, well, there's more needed here than a traditional education. There's more that our kids need. So what does it take to raise a world-ready child? So I started a podcast called The Curious Parent. That's me, because I don't have the answers, but I was trying to find them. And in season 1, I have a really kind of great range of, I've got 8 guests, and we have short, kind of really to the point, practical conversations about, okay, you're a coach working with adults, and they come to you for kind of mindset, or whatever they come to you with. What is it that you see time and time again that these adults are asking help for? And what can we like back? And what can we take from that and apply to our children at a younger age? And so we have all sorts of conversations around that, and we ended up talking about exam stress, anxiety, study skills, creativity, mindsets, whether it's even possible to raise productive kids. So do check out the podcast if you're interested in any of those topics. It's on iTunes, it's on Stitcher, it's on Spotify, or it's on my website at HappySelfJournal.com. And then the journal was really kind of tapping into this idea that journaling has been shown to be like a really positive practice, and if you combine that with kind of gratitude practice, it seems to be a very beneficial, positive habit to encourage children to start. So I set up designing the journal. Do come and have a look. There's not much writing involved. It's a very kind of design-led layout, and it's really kind of high-quality products. I wanted children to feel like it was really something they could be proud of, and a kind of special object, special book that they can use and write in, and either, depending on their age, share with a parent and do together, or keep private, I suppose, if they're a bit older. And I thought it would be fun. There's 3 things that I thought I would share with you that you can all go away and try at home. It's kind of 3 simple things that are shown to boost happiness. But I thought I'd kind of run through a little bit more of the science of this time, because it was really interesting. There's about 7 or 8 simple activities really that science and studies have shown repeatedly that do kind of boost happiness levels. Not all of them are very easy. I've worked through them all, I've tried them all, I've read the papers. Some of them are really simple, and I encourage you to try them, and I've tried to include as many of them as possible in child-friendly formats in the journal. Just kind of give you an idea of what's out there. So kind of gratitude practice comes top of the list. Sharing your 3 good things of the day. And top 3 things is kind of at the heart of the journal. Writing gratitude letters, expressing thanks to people that might not normally hear it. For children, a teacher, a postman, somebody who's helped them. And keeping a gratitude journal as part of it, that has really been shown to be one of the most widely tested and easily accessible happiness practices out there. Next up on the list was an interesting one called active listening, really taking time to have a very in-depth conversation with someone, listening, showing empathy. That's a harder one to get kids to do, but I did encourage in the journal kind of a little bit more the art of conversation. I put some really fun kind of family conversation starters in there to try out over meal times. Random acts of kindness. This is a really fun one, and something that we can all do so easily day to day. Just doing little things without people necessarily knowing that you've done them for them. And kids will need a little bit of prompting to come up with ideas, but it's so simple, from leaving little happy notes to just helping someone out, paying for someone's coffee, giving to charity, doing something positive that you don't necessarily get recognition for, but that will make a difference to someone's day. The children in the journal also kind of prompted to think about, who are they kind to, but not just who are they kind to, but who is kind to you, because acknowledging and learning that people are giving you kindness is, I think, also a really important skill. Forgiveness. This is a hard one, I think, even for adults. So I thought that was quite challenging to introduce, and I kind of, in the journal, looked at it a bit more in terms of, well, how have you behaved, and do you need to say sorry to anyone? So it's not quite forgiveness, but as a way of easing children into thinking about their actions and reflecting on those at the end of the day. Mindfulness comes up a lot, and that's in the press all the time, and I'm sure lots of you are using apps like Headspace or Calm. Headspace has released kind of lovely whole kind of kids version of it within the app, and I encourage children to kind of listen to those meditations and try that practice. Even if it's once a week, it's a positive thing to do. And even just the act of journaling is a very mindful experience. You're taking time out with yourself for a few minutes to sit and think and just be quiet, really. Self-compassion. This is another easy one for us all to try, to be aware of our flaws and to accept ourselves as we are. And so that ties in very nicely with kind of whole growth mindsets that a lot of schools are introducing, which is another thing I put into the journal. So as you can see, there's lots of really little simple things that we can try, that we can introduce to our kids. And so I really encourage you all to kind of, at home, go around the dinner table and share top 3 things with your children. We've been doing this for years in our family, and it is a really lovely thing to do. So I'm overrunning. But yes, I'm at the back, so thank you.